Today, we are going to tackle a huge question. How do you get an AI assistant to be smart about your company's specific private information? We're going to break down this really elegant technique that honestly works like a perfect private memory for an AI.
So, here's how we're going to do it. First, we're going to stare down this massive data problem that a ton of companies are facing right now. Then, we'll introduce the solution, which is called RAG. We'll peek under the hood to see how it works, sketch out how you'd build a basic one, and finally, we'll get into why this whole approach is such a game changer for personalized AI.
Okay, so just imagine this. Your company has, say, 500 gigabytes of internal documents. We're talking product specs, all your meeting notes, HR policies, literally everything. Now, you want a super helpful AI that can answer questions about it all. I mean, where do you even begin?
Right. This is the real challenge. An AI has something called a context window, which you can think of like its short-term memory. And it is tiny compared to 500 gigabytes. You can't just feed it a mountain of data and expect it to remember page 1. So, what's the workaround?
Well, the most obvious ideas are, frankly, dead ends. You could try searching through everything from scratch for every single question, but that would be agonizingly slow. And pre-summarizing everything, you might as well just be throwing away the most important details before you even start. We need something that's both fast and precise.
And this is exactly where this really clever technique comes into play. It's known as RAG, and it all works by tapping into the fundamental way that AI understands the meaning of language itself.
You see, it all starts with something called word embedding. At its core, it's basically a translator. Computers think in numbers, not words, right? So embedding converts our messy, human language into a really precise mathematical format. And once language becomes math, well, something incredible becomes possible.
Yeah, it means we can actually map out language based on meaning. It's like giving every word or sentence its own GPS coordinate. So on this map, concepts like dogs allowed and pets permitted become really close neighbors, while a totally different idea, like remote work, would be miles and miles away.
So, by converting all of our documents into these, let's call them meaning coordinates, we can build a system that first retrieves the most relevant bits of information and then uses it to generate an answer. And that's it, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, RAG. Let's break down how that process actually works.
Now, RAG might sound pretty complex, but it's really just 3 logical steps. And once you understand this simple framework, you'll see just how powerful and, honestly, how elegant it is.
It's a really clean flow. Retrieve, augment, and generate. First, we find the right data. Then, we add that data to the AI's prompt. And finally, the AI creates an informed response. So let's just zoom in on each of those steps.
The retrieval step uses something called semantic search. So when you ask a question, your question also gets converted into one of those numerical vectors we talked about. The system then searches the database, not for keywords, but for the chunks of documents whose vectors are closest to your question's vector. It's searching for meaning, not just matching words.
Now, augmentation. This is where the magic really happens. We take the relevant text we just found, and we literally inject it directly into the prompt we send the AI. It's like we're handing the AI an open book test with the exact page it needs to answer your question. And that, of course, leads us to the final step, generation. The AI now has your original question and the perfect cheat sheet from your own documents, so it can then use its amazing reasoning power to give you a super accurate, context-aware answer.
Okay, so that's all the theory, but what does it actually take to build one of these systems? Let's walk through a high-level blueprint that's based on a real-world coding lab example.
You can see it's a pretty clear pipeline here. First, you get your environment set up with the right tools. Then you prep the documents by breaking them into these manageable chunks. You process and store them as those number vectors, embeddings, in your database, and then you just build the functions that search the data and feed it all to the AI to generate the answer.
Now, a really crucial point here is that how you chop up your data is, well, everything. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. You'd handle the long, dense paragraphs of a legal document completely differently than you'd handle the short back and forth of a customer support chat. It all depends on the source. So while the specific brand names of the tools can vary, the recipe is always going to be the same. You need a way to turn text into numbers. That's your embedding model. You need a place to store those numbers. That's your vector database. And you absolutely need a smart strategy for breaking down your documents in the first place. So now that we've seen what RAG is and how you can build one,
let's just take a step back and summarize why this approach is becoming so incredibly popular and, honestly, so transformative.
See, these 3 points, they solve huge, real-world problems. Are you worried about your AI just making things up or sharing private data? Well, RAG grounds its answers only in your secure documents. Tired of your AI having stale, outdated knowledge? RAG stays current instantly as soon as you add new files. And maybe best of all, it's incredibly cost-effective. Instead of retraining a massive AI model, which is super slow and expensive, you're just giving it access to a bigger, better library.
And there you have it. That's Retrieval-Augmented Generation. It's the tech that turns a general-purpose AI into your own personal, specialized expert. Which really just leaves us with a final thought. If you could give an AI a perfect, searchable memory of any knowledge base in the world, what would you choose to unlock first?
Thank you. Share and subscribe to Learn AI for more AI insights.